Hi everybody, Hassan Shariq, regulated Canadian immigration consultant, back with another video on Canadian immigration. My prayers and wishes that all of you, along with your families, are doing really well wherever in the world you are. Today's video is about the update by IRCC in terms of proof of funds requirement for express entry applications. So just a few days ago, IRCC issued an update where they've revised, they've upscaled the required amount of funds as proof of funds for all express entry applicants. The change or the increase that has been published now is not so much. So previously, for a single applicant, one was required to show funds equivalent to about 12,900 some Canadian dollars, approximately 13,000 Canadian dollars. Now for an individual, it is 13,213 Canadian dollars. If it is a family of two, like a husband and wife, or two partners in a marital or a common law relationship, the requirement is now 16,449 Canadian dollars. So the increase in amount is not so much, but it is a very important factor in terms of your eligibility for express entry and for you to stay in the express entry pool. They've given the date of 15th July. That's till when you can update your profiles. So for all of you who are already in the pool, if you've created your own profile, or if you're using the services of an RCIC or a Canadian lawyer for your profile, please proceed with this update. All that you have to do is that you sign in. Like if you're doing it yourself, you just sign in to your profile in the personal details, in the section family section. You will see where it asks that what is the amount of funds that you will bring to Canada once you're granted PR. You have to update that field. Now, if previously you had put in the minimum amount that was required, like maybe you had put in the exact dollar amount, 12,900 and some dollars, then you need to update it, and it must be at least 13,213 if it is a single applicant. And then the list based on the number of family members, the required amount that is there. If it is updated by 15th of July, absolutely no issue. Your profile will remain active. If you have put in an amount like previously, I know a lot of people had put in $13,000 as a round figure. This is for single applicants. So if you do not update, or if your profile is not updated by 15th July, then after 15th July, you will become ineligible for express entry and your profile will be taken out. If you make this update, the required update in proof of funds by 15th July, the creation date of your profile will be considered from the date that you created it. There will be no change in your CRS, and for the purpose of tie breaking rule, if that comes to be applicable to you in a draw, will remain based on the date that you created your profile initially. So don't worry about that this will be a new date. It will just be an update in your proof of funds. So that's first thing. 15 July, have the required funds changed, the amount of funds changed, and everything will be fine. And over here, I'll just give a little pro tip. So for most of my clients for whom I have created their express entry profiles in my system, if they were single applicants, I always keep that amount slightly higher than the minimum required. So just giving you an example, previously it was about $12,900 for a single applicant. So all my clients who are single applicants, I kept it at about 13,500 to 14,000 Canadian dollars, and informed them that they need to have these much funds. So they're not impacted by this, So a few $100 above the minimum requirement is always something that should be considered. Now, for those of you who are not really well aware as to what proof of funds are, I'll take this opportunity. I've already made a video about it, but I'll take this opportunity to quickly let you know as to what this is. So if you are interested in express entry application, one of the requirement is that based on your family composition, you are required to mention and then provide proof once you receive ITA, and that you will be able to bring in a certain amount of funds with you once you get the PR. You're not supposed to deposit this amount anywhere. You're not supposed to provide this amount to anybody, but this is more like a settlement fund, where IRCC or Government of Canada feels that once you get PR and you move in along with your family, if you have that as part of your application, or even if they're not part of your application, there is a transition time, and during this time you need to have some amount of funds with you to be able to cover your living expenses, daily expenses for yourself and your family, even if in the case that they are accompanying you, or even if they're back home and will not accompany you, but they'll have some expenses and costs and you should have some money to cover that. Now, in terms of family composition, how do you calculate that? So definitely it is you yourself as the principal applicant, whoever it is. If you're married or in a common law relationship, your spouse or partner becomes the second family member. So that's two. And then all the children that you and your spouse or partner have, you add that as well. I'll explain it with a few scenarios. So say you are married, and this is your only marriage, and same is the case for your spouse till date, and say you have two children. So your total family size is 2 plus 2, the 2 children, that's 4. In instances where you or your partner have had children outside of your current marriage and they're part of your application, you will include all such dependent children of yours and your family member as well, and your spouse as well. So I'll give you an example that you are married with somebody and you have a child from this particular marriage. But say, for instance, your spouse or your partner had a child from a previous marriage or a previous relationship, and that child is a dependent with your partner and will be part of this application, your PR application. In that instance, you will include that child, and again, the family size will be 4 people. Sometimes people say that they're expecting a child, and so until the child is born, you will consider yourself just as say if this is your first child, then it will be 2, and once your child is born, only then you update the requirement. So that's family size. Also quickly telling you as to what is accepted. So keep in mind there are 2 important tests for these funds. There are various scenarios. People have different kind of funds available with them. So it is very difficult to just list all the acceptable funds in one go. Sometimes the same kind of funds might be acceptable, and in other situations they might not. So it is difficult to sort of put an exhaustive list. But generally you have to put them through 2 important tests. Number 1, these funds should be accessible. So usually funds which are in liquid form are accepted. So if you have cash in hand, brilliant. If you have cash in bank, brilliant. If you have term deposits or saving deposits in bank, again brilliant, because you could always use them for whenever you need them. But say, for instance, if it is something that you cannot liquidate right away, maybe you have real estate. Now, real estate, if you have to sell it, it might take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So this will not be considered as proof of funds. It has to be readily available in a more liquid form. So that's the first test, your access to these funds. Secondly, these should be in your ownership. So these funds should belong to you. Now, when we say you, again, there can be different situations and scenarios. If you're applying, um, if you're if you're married or in a common law relationship, and your partner is accompanying you, then it can be joint funds. So if the requirement is, say, $16,500, you have $10,000, your spouse has $7,000, together this fulfills the requirement. But otherwise, if you're single and you are required to have $13,200, and you have $10,000 and you borrow $3,000 from somebody, that's not going to work. Or you say that my father has those in his accounts and I can use that. That's not going to work out. But yes, there are ways where if they give that money to you and then that becomes your ownership, that's perfectly fine. So ownership is important. If, for instance, so sometimes there are applicants who have non-accompanying spouse as part of their application. You will still count all your non-accompanying dependents as part of the overall number of family members for the purpose of calculation of your funds. Giving you an example, if you've submitted an express entry profile, and right now it is non-accompanying, but your spouse and children, say you have a spouse and you have 2 children, even when they are non-accompanying, you are required to show funds equal to a family size of 4 people. So that's a requirement. Yeah, so that's about it. A little bit of definition on proof of funds. Hope this would have provided you some guidance for all those who have their profiles active. Please update your proof of funds details if they're below the updated amounts by 15th of July. For those who have already been approved for a PR application, like reading online, I saw a lot of copper holders becoming a little curious about it. They don't need to do anything. Once they land, if they're asked, they need to provide proof that they have these funds. For those who have submitted their applications, again, don't worry. Most likely you might be asked to, like, if the funds available in your bank account or in other financial institutions that you submitted as part of your application were slightly higher and they fulfill the requirements perfectly fine. If there is a major difference in what was required at that time and what is listed now, they will ask you to show that, to provide an updated bank statement, maybe adding a little more money into it, and that should be fine. So don't worry about that. This is more relevant to people who are part of the pool right now, or maybe who had some kind of invitation and they have not submitted their application. Before I end up this video, one important thing that just came to my mind is that there are certain categories of applications under express entry which are not required to show proof of funds, where it is not a mandatory requirement. If you do it, that's fine. And these are Canadian experience class applicants or applicants who have a valid job offer. When we say valid job offer, Canadian job offer, it is one that is supported by an LMIA, and then there's other requirements as well. So even if you're applying for programs like non-CEC programs under Express Entry, FSW, or the Federal Skill Trade, and you have a valid job offer which is backed by an LMIA, you're still not required. But if you add this, then that's all fine. So with this, I'll ask for leave. Do share your comments, your feedback. Do support the social media platforms. And for those who would want to discuss their case in detail, feel free to book a consultation, and I'll be happy to assist you with your case for Canadian immigration. Till the next time that we meet, Take very good care of yourself and your families. Bye bye and Allah Hafiz.